Hello, I'm Jumpy, and I'm trying something different today. I've gotten quite a few movie recommendations from my friends. One day, I decided it would be an absolutely great idea to watch some of them and compile my thoughts into a single video. In honor of this being my 7th full review video, I'm going to review 7 movies that were recommended to me. There's a lot to cover here, so let's jump right into this. The first movie is The Jack in the Box. This is a horror movie from 2019. I had never heard of this one before, and it just popped up out of nowhere. I live in the Northern Hemisphere, and I saw this back in April, which is definitely the best season to watch this movie. Spring. Because of the spring and the Jack and the... You know what? Never mind. In the movie, a man in the UK finds something using a metal detector. He digs it up. And it's the Jack in the Box, of course. He shows his wife, and something comes out of the box, kills her, and then pulls her inside. Over a decade later, an American named Casey starts his job at the Hawthorne Museum, which offers many history exhibits across a wide array of topics, like war and toys. Maybe they have a separate wing combining the two, and that's where they keep all the G.I. Joes. I don't know. But what I do know is that while at the museum, Casey meets the local woman Lisa, who's also working there. She shows him around, and they find a box in the back room. Obviously, it's the Jack in the Box again. They open it up, and the fucking demon clown inside wants to kill some more people. Now, this movie isn't very good, but it was quick, and it wasn't painful to sit through. The film isn't scary. They do use a lot of what the subtitles call tense instrumental music, or, as I got distracted when I was watching the movie and called it, tenstrumental music. There are some jump scares, which is fine in principle because a Jack in the Box is a jump scare toy, but they're not effective here. The kills are pretty weak, and there's some noticeably bad CGI, but I've seen worse. Fortunately, the movie itself looks decent overall, and it doesn't look as cheap as some of the effects. I wasn't too impressed with the acting, but the biggest negative standout was Casey's accent changing at times. I'm not going to hold that against the movie too much, and I usually don't care, but it was very noticeable at points. I did laugh out loud a few times, like the deep-ass Jack in the Box lore, and some of the dialogue is unintentionally funny. But the absolute most hilarious thing to me was some graffiti during one scene. Someone spray-painted the word murderer on a garage, and then right underneath it, someone else spray-painted the word murderer but in slightly smaller letters. I'm easily amused sometimes, what can I say? But I can't put this into so bad it's good territory as a whole. There wasn't enough of that. If you're paying attention at all, what happens at the end is incredibly obvious. I wasn't expecting to be blown away by that point, but it treats something like it's a huge, earth-shattering twist. I'm not going to hold that against the movie too much either, but I will say one good thing about it. At least it didn't cheat. It set up its rules and played by them. And there is a sequel, but I don't want to watch it. Overall, I really didn't get too much out of the Jack in the Box. I didn't hate it, but it's not particularly memorable. It wasn't hard to sit through, and it's inoffensive if you're just looking for something undemanding to have on. I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 10. If it had a few more fun moments, I could have bumped this up to a 4 and put it in the same elite company of the motion picture Rest Stop. But moving on, my second movie is Mandy. This one was released in 2018. It was directed by Panos Cosmatos, and it stars Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough. It takes place in the early 1980s, and it's about a guy named Red and his girlfriend Mandy. A religious cult shows up, kills Mandy in front of Red, and then leave. Red then sets out to take revenge against the cult members. It's a very simple story. Where the movie gets by is its style. The very dramatic lighting and atmospheric soundtrack add up to a very cool experience. I think it went a little overboard with the visual effects in one scene in particular where Mandy meets the cult leader, but I do like the look and feel of the movie overall. The movie starts off slow and quiet, and there are some good scenes between Red and Mandy. Red telling some cheesy jokes and Mandy talking about space were nice. Then there's an odd dream sequence, and she tells a very disturbing story. And despite the slow pace at the start, the movie flies by and feels shorter than its 2-hour runtime. There are some creepy moments with the cult and the bikers early on. Some of it feels off and uncomfortable. Once the revenge kicks in, the movie just becomes silly and incredibly bloody, and it's a lot of fun. There are memorable scenes like Red making an axe, and Nick Cage is great to watch. It gets very funny at times, but the part that made me laugh the hardest was the fake TV commercial. That was wonderful. I knew about one of the other scenes going in, but I'm not going to mention it here because it'll be a nice surprise if you don't know it. I did like the ending too. It was nothing too complicated, but it worked. I doubt I'll revisit this movie anytime soon, but I'm really glad I watched it. I'm giving it a solid 7 out of 10. Hopefully this trend of me liking the movies in this video continues. My third movie is Where the Crawdads Sing. This one is from 2022, and it's based on a 2018 novel that I'd never heard of until I found out about its film adaptation's existence. This one did poorly with critics, but audiences loved it. We've already established in an earlier video that I'm a critic, so I should hate it, right? Not so fast there. Let's talk about this. The movie takes place in North Carolina. In 1969, a man named Chase Andrews is found dead, and they think it's a murder. I'm beginning to wonder if someone is going to die in every single one of these fucking movies I watch for this video. Enter a woman named Catherine Danielle Clark, aka Kaya. The police think she killed Chase. And why is that? It's because she lives alone out in the marsh, and most people call her Marsh Girl. When she was a kid, her mother left her abusive father, then her siblings all left. She tries to go to school, but everyone's an asshole and scares her off. It's so sad. Then her father leaves too. As most people in town would say, Marsh Girl is afraid to leave her marsh. So she stays and lives out on her own. She gets by selling mussels to a store owner named James Madison, best known by his nickname Jumpin', which is a cool nickname. Reminds me a bit of my own. And it also reminds me of that Destiny's Child song Jumpin' Jumpin', which I haven't thought about in years. He runs a store with his wife Mabel, and they're pretty cool. The film cuts between the murder trial in 1969 and flashbacks. As I've mentioned, there are a lot of horrible things in Kaya's life, and there are even more to come. But thankfully, it's not all dour. There's some beauty as well. Like, I really like when she learns how to read and write, and some really awesome things come from that. And it never felt hollow or sappy to me, which is what I was afraid of before I watched it. I can't say it's the most emotionally moving thing I've ever seen, but it did work for me. I like how it handles the theme of outsiders. It's a good-looking movie with some nice locations. It's got more birds than a Catatonia album, and there's lots of other cool animals and plants. I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10 as well. It'll be a while before I revisit it. It isn't my favorite kind of drama, but it's very, very good for what it is, and I enjoyed it. The next movie is another period piece. This time, it's The Black Phone. This one always got brought up in discussions about 2022 horror movies, and I avoided it because even though I like the previous movies that the director and writer have done together, I just didn't want to watch a movie about kidnapped children. But my friend insisted and assured me that it's good, so here we are. The movie was directed by Scott Derrickson, and he co-wrote it with C. Robert Cargill. They did the horror movie Sinister together, which I like. Then they did the first Doctor Strange movie with John Spates also co-writing. I love that one. And of course, I need to mention that it comes 3 movies before Thor Ragnarok in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Derrickson and Cargill reunited again for The Black Phone, which is based on a Joe Hill short story. I didn't realize until I was writing this review that I've actually read that short story about 10 years ago. My brother got me into Joe Hill's work, and The Black Phone is part of an anthology called 20th Century Ghosts. I've read a few other Hill novels as well, including Heart-Shaped Box, Horns, and Nosferatu. The only adaptation of Hill's work that I've seen before making this video is the Horns movie, and I didn't like it very much. But yes, I have forgotten the details of the Black Phone short story, so I can't compare it, and I can only speak definitively about the movie. The film takes place in the late 1970s in Denver, Colorado. Several children have gone missing. After a kid named Finney is abducted, he's locked in a basement with the Black Phone, and he receives phone calls from beyond the grave from other kids who have been kidnapped. Meanwhile, on the outside, his sister Gwen has psychic dreams about the kidnappings. So yes, we're dealing with some very unpleasant subject matter. There's also bullying and fights, as well as Finney and Gwen's awful home life. It's incredibly hard to watch at times. My biggest complaint is that I think the opening credits are bad. They're just really in your face and scream, "You're watching a horror movie." But thankfully, it calms down after that. There's a lot of good things I have to say. The movie looks great, and I like how they captured the era. The 2 siblings are realistic characters. They're close and they have some great moments together. Like Gwen will stick up for Finney, and she also teases him for having a crush on the girl who's his lab partner. They don't spend as much time on screen together as the kids from The Visit, but they did a fantastic job setting them up. One of my favorite scenes is when Gwen first meets the detectives. It's hilarious when she talks back to them, and the scene is also completely intriguing because we're learning about her psychic abilities. Ethan Hawke is very creepy as the kidnapper, but something I'm actually thankful for is that the movie isn't completely overbearing in the dread department. As fucked up as all of this is, when Finney is locked in the basement, it's never completely hopeless. It's so devastating when he hits roadblocks, but he's got some ghosts and his sister trying to help him, and we're always rooting for him to get out. This is definitely not a movie for everyone, and it's also not what I expected. I'm giving it a very solid 7 out of 10. It wouldn't crack my top 10 favorite movies list from last year, but I'm glad I finally saw it. The last few films have been good in the traditional sense, so let's break that streak with the next movie, 247 Degrees Fahrenheit. There have been a few movies that I only watched or finished watching because of spoilers. These include the first Orphan movie, as well as Unhuman. Now I can add 247 Degrees Fahrenheit to that illustrious list, which makes this an illustrious movie. So yeah, I only watched this because someone spoiled the entire plot and it sounded pretty great. A woman named Jenna and her fiancé are in a car accident and he dies. 3 years later, she goes to hang out at a cabin with her friend Renee, Renee's boyfriend Michael, and another dude named Ian, whose uncle Wade owns the cabin. Then they get locked in the cabin's sauna. This was more competently made than I expected. When I heard the plot revealed to me, in my head, I imagined it looking super low budget with awful lighting and bad film quality. Well, it's not going to impress anyone, it looks fine. But the movie starts off really poorly. I am not interested in these characters, and I just wanted them to get to the sauna. I will give the movie credit for fucking with my expectations and teasing me with fake outs. It's so overdramatic with them too, it's funny. And the movie just gets funnier as it goes along. It is so ridiculous how this plays out. And there were surprises along the way that I didn't have spoiled. And the things I did have spoiled were even more hilarious when I got to see them. The acting is pretty bad at times, which adds to the experience. I'm not really sure what else to say. This is a movie I just look back on and it makes me laugh. I am giving it a 4 out of 10. I never know how to rate so bad it's good movies, but this is a very solid one. The start is a little weak, but I assure you it does pick up, so check it out if you sauna. Next up is Jojo Rabbit, which is a 2018 movie written and directed by Taika Waititi, who of course directed my favorite MCU movie, Thor Ragnarok. Now before I go any further, I need to apologize for something. In my 2022 movie rankings video, I talk about Jurassic World Dominion. That movie has both Jeff Goldblum and Sam Neill in it, reprising their roles from the original Jurassic Park trilogy. In that video, I failed to mention that both of these actors appear in Thor Ragnarok. I am so embarrassed that I missed the opportunity to make a joke about how JW Dominion is a better movie than Tar, because it has more people from Thor Ragnarok acting in it. This is disgusting negligence on my part, and I'm very, very sorry. Jojo Rabbit takes place during Wayne's World War II, and it tells the story of a 10-year-old boy named Jojo. He already buys into all the Nazi bullshit, and he has Hitler as an imaginary friend. He goes to a kids' camp to learn more about these beliefs. He talks a big game, but he's unable to kill a rabbit, and some kids give him the nickname Jojo Rabbit. He then talks to his imaginary friend, and he tries way too hard to prove himself, and he accidentally gets hurt. I'm going to stop here because I had no idea where the story was going after this when I started watching it. There's a lot to discuss here, and this needs a spoiler section. First of all, I think this is a wonderful satire. It has tons of silly humor, clever jokes, and fun slapstick, and it shows how completely ridiculous and illogical these shitty beliefs are and mocks them. The movie made me laugh very hard at times. And then it catches you off guard when it gets serious, and it can be absolutely devastating at times. There's a lot of humanity and heart to it. This movie is great, and I highly recommend it. I'm going to go into spoilers now, so skip ahead for my final thoughts and then a discussion about this video's last movie. Spoilers starting now. There are some very good scenes with Scarlett Johansson as Jojo's mother, Rosie, and she's an interesting character. We learn that she's against what the bad guys are doing, but she hides this from Jojo. And despite their different views, she loves her son. And one of the best interactions is when she dances and tells him that dancing is for people who are free. The biggest thing about this movie that I didn't know going in is that Rosie had been hiding a Jewish girl named Elsa in their home. Elsa had been friends with Jojo's deceased older sister, and Elsa is played by Thomasin McKenzie from Old and Last Night in Soho. I was definitely enjoying the movie before that, but Jojo discovering Elsa is where the movie really got great for me. At first, she threatens to kill him or lie and say that he helped her hide if he tells anyone, and she hilariously keeps stealing his knives. He realizes there's nothing he can do, and he starts asking her questions about Jewish people, and she fucks with him and makes up the most absurd things imaginable, and he believes them, which is both funny because of how misguided and gullible he is, and really sad that he can actually believe these hateful things. Seeing their relationship grow over the course of the movie is wonderful. Another really fascinating character is Klausendorf, played by Sam Rockwell. He got injured in battle and worked at the kids' camp, and then he gets demoted to an office job after Jojo's accident. Jojo works underneath him doing things like putting up posters and collecting metal. One of the best sequences is when some people come to inspect Jojo's house. Klausendorf shows up independently at the same time. This sequence is suspenseful as they search and then hear something. Then Elsa walks out posing as Jojo's sister. Klausendorf realizes that something is off, but he covers for them to the other people doing the inspection. After this, Jojo discovers that his mother Rosie has been found out and executed, and this is a powerful scene and well done visually by only showing her shoes, which were shown enough times earlier in the movie that we can easily recognize them. Eventually, the battle comes to their city, and the Allies win and catch Jojo and put him with the other Nazis because of his jacket. Klausendorf is also there, and his last act is that he saves Jojo again by taking his jacket and saying that he's a Jewish kid, so the Allies let Jojo go. And the movie never lets up, because what happens next hurts too when he returns home. Elsa heard all the fighting outside, and she asks Jojo who won the war, and he lies and says Germany did. This was really heartbreaking because Jojo is afraid that Elsa will leave, and she's all he has left. Throughout the movie, Jojo talks to his imaginary friend, played by Taika Waititi himself. It's so satisfying when Jojo finally ends their friendship forever. Jojo tells Elsa that he has an escape plan, so they head outside and she immediately sees that Jojo had lied and that the Allies won. She slaps him, and then she starts dancing. He wouldn't dance earlier with his mom, but he does now because he's finally free from the war, his imaginary friend, and his preconceptions. It's such a beautiful moment and a great arc for the character. Welcome back if you left. Yeah, this movie is great. I'm sure I would have watched it at some point because of my love of Thor Ragnarok, but I'm really glad I saw it sooner. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10, and it's my favorite movie I've seen for this video so far. I wonder if my last movie will be even better than this one. So what is my last movie? Well, I watched The Jack in the Box Part 2, Awakening. I'm kidding. I watched Robert the Doll. And I'm really not sure if that was actually a better choice or not. The movie was released in 2015. At the start, we get some unnecessary text filling the screen about Robert. Apparently there's a real Robert doll, but whatever. I actually like the Conjuring movies and I don't care about their backstory, and I wouldn't believe it anyway. So of course I'm apathetic about Robert. Then, in Robert the Doll's opening scene, which is pretty funny by the way, a priest and his wife are troubled because they think their house is haunted. Their housekeeper Agatha assures them that it's not the house, but it's the doll that's haunted. 3 years later, Agatha is working for the Otto family, which consists of Jen, who's the mother, Paul, who's Big Daddy, and Jean, their son. Agatha has been working for the new family for 2 years, but she's become forgetful, so Jen decides it's time for Agatha to go. Agatha does what anyone would do in this situation. She gives the possessed doll Robert to the kid and leaves. Obviously, Robert tries to kill everyone. And god damn it, we've done it. Every movie I've talked about in this video has someone die in it, and I cannot be bothered to find any other commonalities. Back to Robert the Doll. Let's start with the bad. Jen and Paul's marriage isn't very interesting. She's a painter who hasn't been working as much. She hasn't had the time because Paul the lawyer is always busy working late because he's got the big case. Jen has anxiety and is on medication for her mental illness, and obviously they use this as an excuse for Paul to not believe her when shit starts getting weird. It's just not done well here. The dialogue and acting don't help, and it's not scary, which is obvious, but I feel compelled to say it anyway. However, there are a few bright spots other than the opening scene. Any time that Robert moves around is just delightful, and they film it in the cheapest way possible. They couldn't spare any animatronics or CGI. They had nothing. It's so charming, and I enjoyed those scenes a lot. There's also a wonderful scene of Jen yelling at the doll and interrogating him. There wasn't much to this one, but somehow it has 4 sequels. I'm not going to watch those either, but I did read plot summaries for them. The second movie has the doll getting put in a museum and terrorizing people there, which makes sense. I understand that happening after watching the first movie. But then, the next 2 movies take place in Nazi Germany. The first of these is about a toy maker who can bring inanimate objects to life, so the bad guys want that power. Then the other one takes place on a train, and the toy maker summons his evil friend Robert to protect him from these bad guys. A couple of very superficial similarities are not lost on me. They should have called that movie Jojo Rabbit. Oh, right, and then there's another movie in this series after that. I'm going to give the first Robert the Doll movie a low 3 out of 10. I didn't have a miserable time watching this, but it's not anything I'd ever recommend. That is all the movies. I want to very sincerely thank the people who recommended them to me. Of the 7 movies I watched, I gave them an average rating of 5.57 out of 10, which isn't too bad. I took a chance on 3 of the horror movies and I knew what I was getting into. I was hoping they would either be so bad they're good, or at the very least give me something to say, and they succeeded in that regard. I had a lot of fun watching these movies and putting this video together. I've had a few other movies recommended to me that I'm very eager to see, and I plan on doing a part 2 to this video at some point. Thanks again to my friends for the recommendations, and thank you for watching.